Every nigga is a star. Who will remind you that you admire? Every nigga is a star. Every nigga's a star. Every nigga's a star. Every nigga's a star. Every nigga's a star.
New Year's Eve 2019 was a bit rough, as I had just lost my uncle earlier that summer, and my boyfriend and I were arguing over restaurant choices. But by the end of the night, we were happy, safe, drunk, and hopeful for a new year. Very soon thereafter, the world literally turned upside down and shifted life as we know it. It was almost as if 2019 was a live foreshadowing to a very, very troubled time. Flaws were put on the table and limits were pushed. People who had spent their time being stationary had to learn how to adjust really quickly. People who had become more sporadic had to learn how to stop and get grounded. It seems as if right now we are barely making it out alive between surviving a plague and surviving one of the most blatantly hateful government administrations of our lifetime. But as we narrow down the months, I have to say, we made it. A lot of us didn't make it, but we made it. Unfortunately, this season is not filled with lots of cheer because nobody asked me, but child, it's been a hell of a year.
Let's give them something to talk about. How about love? Love is good. I can't dig it.
Welcome back to an episode of Nobody Asked Me But. I am your host, Something Else. It has been such a long time. I've missed you guys. So I've just come on here to say hey and talk to you guys really quick about what's going on. So 2020 really beat our asses, if I could just put it plainly. We were not prepared for the fight. If you imagine your elementary school times when your elementary school bully calls you outside, tells you to meet you at the flagpole at 3:00, and all day long you're mustering up the strength to figure out what's going to happen. And right when you think you're going to go out and, just have to face it, all types of crazy things happen. So it's been a year starting from the top and we're narrowing down. We lost so many greats along the way this year in particular. It started off with a heartbreaking loss of the basketball giant Kobe Bryant and his daughter. And it just kind of set the tone for what was going to be a really painful and shifting of a year. And so even though this year has had so many troubling times and it's caused so much pain internationally for every person at some point or another, I would like to say that there have been some major changes and major reflections that have been made in this time. A lot of us have had to kind of really look at ourselves and kind of reevaluate where we are with our lives, reevaluate where we are with our families, reflect where we are spiritually, reflect where we are mentally, and a lot of growth happened. So I'll just talk for myself. At the start of pandemic, my sister and I had gone for her birthday to Hawaii before anything had gotten really bad. And our friend is a nurse and she's works really hard. Shout out to Monique. And Monique kept telling us about how crazy it was in the hospital and how people were literally dying every day and they were running out of supplies and they were running out of ways to help people. And every day was just a major, major, major struggle. And before she had told us that, she had told us all the warning signs about what was happening with COVID. And I kind of was just not paying attention. Like, we hopped on a plane and my sister was like, "You don't have a mask?" And I was like, "For what?" And she was like, girl, COVID is here. It is present. It is alive. COVID is here. And you are like not paying attention. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I got on that plane. I got on the plane. I didn't have a mask on. My sister had a mask the entire trip. And I kept looking at her like, man, you're being dramatic. And she kept being like, I can't believe you don't know what's going on. And on the way back from Hawaii, everybody had a mask on, like children, babies. And I was looking around and I was like, oh, this is kind of serious. So fast forward to we come back. Everything seems to be okay. And I'm at work as per usual. And then all of a sudden, my job was like, yeah, girl, we're going to be closing down. We're going to be closing down in a second. And I was like, okay. And, you know, in my brain, my body's always ready for a vacation. I'm almost always ready to just sit and do nothing. So I was kind of like, okay, well, fine. But then it got worse. And I remember my last day of work was March 15th. And we just got a phone call that was like, hey, we're going back in to our own houses. We're not going to be seeing each other for a while. Be prepared for updates. And so I did what any other normal person would do. I went home. We actually didn't stock up on toilet paper, if I remember correctly. But we just kind of stocked up on what we thought we needed at the time. And our roommate at the time was like prepared. He had like a, in case he needs to go, pack. I don't know if what is that called? It's like a survival book bag. He had all these things kind of in place. And my boyfriend and I were like, we just don't think it's that deep. We should be done by June, easily. So from March to June, it was very not that. It was a lot of tears. It was a lot of fear. Fear of death. Fear of how rapidly people were catching it. Fear of families not being able to see other families. Just so many different obstacles that no one was prepared for in that time. And in the middle of that, all of the grief that I thought I had pretty much subsided, to say, because you never really lose grief. Grief is a constant thing as far as I'm concerned. You just kind of learn how to deal with it. It's not something that obviously people are not grieving all day, every day. But when you're grieving a loss of any kind, it kind of lives with you and it becomes a part of you. And then you have to just learn how to adjust. And so I had adjusted pretty okay. And then when the pandemic hit, it was almost as if I was grieving all over again from the top of that process. So it just became a lot very quickly, more than what a lot of us had necessarily bargained for. I also admit I was one of the first people to say a lot of weird, crazy things like Black people are not going to get this virus, girl. We are not going to get it. We are fine. The government does this every so often during an election year. And it's just coincidence. They do it as a distraction and blah, 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 blah. And that could not have been further from the truth. It could not have been more ignorant. It could not have been more uninsightful and totally just unaware. And still, I think, maybe because I was in disbelief or in shock, just not really allowing myself to fathom how serious this was. And so I found myself, a lot of people said that they experienced a lot of depression or they were experiencing just kind of this anger. And I was feeling emptiness. Now, what's interesting is that in the middle of all the stuff that's happening with the world as far as a pandemic is concerned, we're having one of the most incredibly sad movements being reignited. So I talk a lot about Black Lives Mattering. I talk a lot about the rights of Black people. I talk a lot about the rights of Black women and Black trans women. I talk a lot about, you know, how much that means to me and what that means to other people, what it should mean to other people. This year in particular just felt different as far as how we were being treated in this country. And it seemed like every week there was another showcase of a person who was trying to make it already in a pandemic. But not only can they not make it during a time of airborne illness, but they can't make it in time just for simply being who they are. And we had episodes about it on here, and I was talking about it to my bosses and my students, and they were my students were a little bit, some of them were unaware about what was happening outside as far as racism is concerned. And so it is a lot. It's a lot for one person to have to deal with. And if you're thinking about, there's really no other place, there isn't a place to place your mind when you are thinking about, well, how long am I going to be out of work? And what's going to happen if someone sneezes on me and then I catch COVID and I give it to someone and then they die? That's a constant thinking. And then next to that is your job. How am I going to sustain myself? How does unemployment work? Is it working? Will I have enough? Everyone gets a $1,200 stimulus check and a proverbial pat on the butt and, have a good day, have a good life. And then now on top of those two things, it's like, you can't be Black. Do not be Black and go outside. Do not leave your house because at the expense of a airborne plague and the color of your skin. So for those first 4 months of pandemic, I was empty, completely empty, running on fumes, not eating properly at all, not present in any moment. Most of my days are spent in bed. I don't want to watch anything that's going to cause me to overthink or overanalyze. I can't watch it. I need something that's calming. I need something that's soothing. I need something that maybe is fun. But I'm just not present in any of these moments. Also in the middle of this, my grandfather, although we're so thankful and grateful that he's made it to 90. This is prior to his 90th birthday. He has been battling with dementia for some years now. So that's also a toll that takes on a lot of us. And what happens with me is I have a hard time seeing people suffer. So, times where it's like, you should go see your grandpa because, these are the times to do that and get close with your family. I kind of pulled away because it's just like, it's all too much for me to kind of sit through and shift through and organize feelings and thoughts. And so I really was just going through the motions. Every day was pretty much the same. And that was about it. And I couldn't feel it. I didn't want to feel it. Any way to numb it was just the easiest thing for me to do at the time. And I just was doing the best that I could do at that time, which a lot of us were doing. And people were doing excellent things. My boyfriend woke up every day and was working out. He was, trying to work on his bass stuff. He played bass professionally, as I've told you several times before. Shout out to Key Change. He's just been, for him, these times are for grinding, and these times are for, keeping yourself busy and being, working on yourself and being present in those moments. And for his roommate at the time, it was very much, let's watch the news every day. Let's stay updated. Let's make sure that we're in tune. Let's make sure we're ready. What are they saying about this state? What are they saying about that state? Make sure your hands are washed. He was kind of really knee deep in the logistics of COVID, as he himself was immune compromised. And so, he just was trying to make sure that everybody was safe and present. But because of the severity it was, and because my boyfriend and I are people who try to make the best out of situations. It's not to say that his roommate isn't, but it's just that we have a different approach as far as how we were going about it. It definitely caused some friction, and that friction eventually boiled over. But, it was one of the first lessons that everybody grieves differently. Every single person grieves differently than the next person, even people that you are related to, even people you're close to, even people you've known 50 years, 20 years, 5 minutes. Every single person grieves differently, and you have to allow space for people to grieve the way that they can grieve, because this was the process of how can we all get over what's happening right this second and get through every single day. So that went on for a little bit. Eventually, around, I'd say, April, I was able to go back to work. And work was very different. During the day, I'm a performance arts teacher. So I teach singing, dancing, and acting. And, the whole point of performance arts is it's in person. So that's how you feel the energy. You're able to see the people. But we just had to adjust. Oh, the phone's ringing. How excellent. So we just had to adjust to how we'd have to work that. So it was a matter of, okay, so we're going to set up the video camera. We're going to do some dances here. We're going to do some dances there, choreograph it, make the video. They can upload it and they can learn it on their own. And if they have questions, they can email me. Or we're having a virtual voice lesson. So that stuff is hard because that's not what we're used to. We're used to having the kids sitting right next to you, and you have to be able to, okay, you're not quite doing your breathing exercises properly. You need to do this instead of that. I'm also the teacher that's like, who am I to tell you what to do in your own house? If you feel like sitting on your bed and you don't feel like singing today, what exactly is it that you want me to do? I've never felt comfortable being like, okay, kids, well, we're in class and you have to, and I mean, that's part of it, as being a teacher, you still have to kind of keep that decorum, but it's definitely different now because the boundaries are now different. I'm at my house. Technically I could just shut off my computer and that would be the end of that. And there's really nothing you could do about it. And so I understand that. So I had to just give grace where grace was due. My shout out to Miss Alicia. She's the boss at the Institute of Music for Children, and she and I teach our acting troupe. And our acting troupe was specifically upset about what was happening. And they're all maybe like maximum 12 or 13. And I know for my boss and for my mom, they're like, well, we can accomplish something. It'll be litty. They'll work on it. They'll feel accomplished. They'll feel better. And I remember I had to pull them both aside for 2 separate occasions. Like, no one's thinking about that right now. No one is thinking about, let's do this other big project. No one's thinking about, let's complete something. Everyone's kind of like, We want to make it to the next day. Even at 12 and 13, the mindset is, how soon can this be over? I'm trying to make it to the next day. I'm trying to make it to the next day. I remember the last day, usually what happens is at the institutes, we have a big showcase at the end of the year, and we all get up and they perform and parents come and flowers are given. It's really beautiful. And this year it was just on Zoom. And one of my babies, I gave him a solo. He's like the lead singer. And by this time it's like June-ish, where people can start going outside and they can start, kind of re-entering society. And his mom was like, I'm so sorry. He's outside playing and he just will not come back inside. And I was like, don't worry about it. I got to charge it to the game. Because if I'm an 8-year-old, a 7 or 8-year-old, and I'm sitting in my house all day and I'm not allowed to go outside, I can't see my friends, I don't really have quite an understanding of what's going on. But after 4 months of this, it's a nice day and I can go outside and play as long as I got my mask on. I'm not coming to that either. And so normally where I would have been concerned or sad or, had one of my other bosses call the parent and make a big stink about it, I was just pretty much like, charge it to the game. That's just where we're at right now. Let that baby go outside and play because it's been months. Towards the end of that, my eventual sister-in-law sat me down and was like, listen, we're all having a rough year. We're all going through it. We're all not sure about what the next days are looking like ahead of us. But here's what you can control. Something Else Productions. This is the thing that you've been working for. I've been seeing it. I know that you're working on it, but you need to take it by the reins and you need to revamp it and you need to put it out and all the shows that you want to do, all the stuff that you're thinking about, all the ways you want to make all this content. Now's the time. Because if you don't start now, you'll have to wait till next year. And by next year, who knows what kinds of things will be in place. And so I took her advice and I did 2 major things that, even though were in retrospect very expensive, really pushed me outside of my limits when it comes to organization, when it comes to planning, when it comes to execution. And even now, there's of course still things that I am still working on and still adjusting towards, but the end of the summer this year for me was much more about a rebirth. And it was much more about a change. And I was still doing, and even now I was still struggling with the spirituality behind it and the motivation behind it sometimes. But I would say that up to now, of these last 10 and a half, 11 and a half months, the name of the game has just been just do it. At this point, people are losing their lives. They're losing family members. We lost a great uncle in the middle of this. We couldn't go to their funeral. People are losing everything. Things that they had worked their entire lives for, they're losing it. And with no help of the government. And honestly, every state, I feel like, was just kind of like, we're just gonna help our people. If our government's not gonna do it, we're gonna help it. And so that's part of that lesson of just do it. I remember I was talking to my other friend, Ivana. Shout out to Ivana. Ivana and Brielle, I'm going to shout them out a little later on because they are a special part of today's episode, but I'll get to them in a second. But Ivana, I was talking to Ivana, I was like, yo, if there's nothing about this pandemic, I've learned. It's don't wait. Microblade those eyebrows now. Your braided weave, your braided wig, get it today. Extend those eyelashes. Get your nails done. Buy that microabrasion kit. Do you need it? Who knows? But if you want it and you feel like you could put it to good use, get it. Life's too short. And that kind of do it now attitude, make it a statement. I mean, like, that's a joke, obviously. Like, if you don't need the braided wig, don't get it. But if you want it, get it. And that's kind of how I've had to kind of put on for these last few months, the last 3 or 4 months, where it's just like, I really want this. So what does that mean for me? It means let's put it in place. Let's make it hot. Let's figure out how we can do it so that it can be fruitful and useful. My greatest advice for people who are still struggling during this time, because if I'm being honest, I feel like we're going to be struggling even next year, but this second wave, I think we're a little bit clearer about how to get through it. But for anyone who is still struggling during this period, my advice would be to honor your rest, honor your break, listen to your bodies, listen to your heart, mind, and spirit, and stand in that space. And when you're ready to go forward, don't think about it. Just do it. With tributaries took off a little bit this year too, because I just sat there and just DJ'd online for people to come if they wanted to come. And one of my friends was like, this is healing. This is you're doing sound healing. And in my brain, I'm like, oh, I don't even know what that means, but I know what it means, but like, I'm not a part of that. And that's not true. She was right. A lot of people were like, it's really relaxing. It's nice to just be able to go to a place and just listen to music. The verses at first was a lot. A lot of people were just kind of like, why do we need it? But it ended up being incredible. One of my best shared experiences with my boyfriend and with our best friend Luther was we watched the Jill Scott and Erykah Badu performance, the verses performance, and then watched Erykah Badu's after show on her website, and it was just incredible. It was incredible. And I think it had a lot to do with those kinds of moments, had a lot to do with my continued inspiration and feeling good about the stuff that I watched and about the stuff that I watched and the stuff that I wanted to put out. And it just kind of propelled me forward. And I just, I thought about it. I did it. I found the bread. I made the arrangements. I prayed on it. And right now on November 16th at 4:51 p.m., I'm feeling like I made it. And there's still quite a few days left in this year, but I'm grateful. I'm really grateful. It could have been a lot worse. It could have been really, really bad for some of the people that I know. I know a lot of my friends and a lot of my family members are still not quite out the woods yet. But I just wanted to have a quick ramble about some of the things I went through this year, mentally and emotionally, and I just want to say it's been a year. So nobody asked me, but it's been a hell of a year. Continue to take care of yourselves, and we're going to take a break. All right, and we are back. So a few announcements. So Nobody Asked Me But is currently on its second season. And as I was telling you before in the discussion, 2020 definitely taught a lot about balance, And change is good and change is necessary. So with that being said, Nobody Asked Me But will now be seasonal and will drop every Tuesday starting January 5th. I'm also, one of the other lessons that I learned during this pandemic was I need consistency. I'm not great at it, but I need to practice it more often. But I also understand that I need to recharge, and I'm just one person. And with everything that I got going on, it makes more sense for me and for my producers to kind of just make a set time, record ahead of time, and just make it. So I always appreciate you guys' patience. I love you so much. So that's what Nobody Asked Me But will be going forward. So after today, we're going to take another little short hiatus to move some things around and add some new stuff. But we'll be back fresh, new, and ready to go Tuesday, January 5th. So be prepared for that. Also starting January 5th, we will be introducing a new segment called The Warm-Up. Now, I'm going to announce it a little later on my Instagram because I want people to start sending their things in. But The Warm-Up is where we will showcase new artists of any kind. And it's kind of a wild card segment. So what happens is, like, let's say you're a rapper. I'm going to email you. I reach out to you. I ask you, hey, do you want to be part of the warm-up segment of Nobody Asked Me But? I send you an instrumental track from yesteryear, Mobb Deep, Jadakiss, Lil' Kim, whomever. Send you one. You record it. You send it back to us. I play it on the show. 30 seconds, 45 seconds worth of you freestyling. I put it on the show. If you have a new song out, you can send me the new song. I'll play the new song during the warm-up segment with all of your information below, and so on and so such. So the idea behind the warm-up is that you're not quite hot yet. You're just warming up. So it's an opportunity for new artists and new creatives of all kinds. It's not limited to singers or to rappers or DJs. Definitely, if you're a dancer, we'll probably just have you on or read a short bio and put your information in the description box below. If you are interested, please send your new heat or any of your inquiries to N as in Nancy, B as in boy, A as in Adam, M as in Mary, B as in boy at somethingelse.com. And I just might play it on the show. Also, Something Else Productions merch is now available. There's also a Black Friday sale. And what's going to happen is it's going to be from Black Friday through Cyber Monday, which also includes Small Business Saturday. And we will be taking off 15% of your entire order over at somethingelse.com. So if you're interested, you haven't gotten your merch yet, now's a great time to do it to kick off our holiday season, starting at midnight on November 27th. That's a Friday. And it goes all the way until 11:59 p.m. on Monday, November 30th. So please be on the lookout for that. I dropped the flyer for that today. So that's going to be circling around. And also, finally, Something Else Productions will be taking a holiday break, as I was saying before. It does seem as if Nobody Asked Me But has been on hiatus for a while. And that's because, as I was saying, we are moving some things around. We're doing a revamp of sorts, but we'll be back running, ready to go. Season 3, Tuesday, January 5th. Don't miss it. Lots of fun things to come. Very exciting. Lots of cool guests. I'm really excited about the new format. I really think you guys will like it. I really wanted it to be more geared towards what Something Else Productions is about. And for those of you that don't know, now's a good time to tell you. Something Else Productions is a Black queer-owned media network. And we strive to raise the voices and lift the voices of Black creatives across the board. Singing, dancing, acting, poetry, you name it. And so it's always our mission to uplift those voices and to tell those stories and to showcase it. So expect lots of shows from us. Expect more podcasts. You can expect some music coming pretty soon. That's who we are. That's what we represent. And that's what we're doing. And now that I got all the announcements out of the way, it's time for our Jet Beauties of the Week.
Boom, dynamite. Boom, boom, dynamite. Our team is boom, dynamite. Boom, boom, dynamite. Our team is tick, 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 tick. Hold up. Wait a minute. Let me put some booty in it. Boom.
All right. So we've had quite a couple of weeks. It's actually been, as I was saying, the name of the show it's been a year. But these last couple of weeks in particular have been great for women, Black women in particular. And the first we must honor, we would be remiss if we did not mention the very first Black, the first woman, the first Asian, the first HBCU grad, the first AKA Vice President, Madam Vice President Kamala Harris, for her accomplishments of winning the Vice President-elect seat. We got them right on out of there. Everybody that voted did a tremendous job. You should be so proud of yourselves. It's so important that we get our voices heard and that we get out there and we vote. We still have a long way to go. We still have votes to come. I think if it's not next year, it's the year after, where we still have to continue to vote for our Senate and our houses. I believe there's a runoff vote in January for our friends out down south in Atlanta, so that they can also vote out people for Senate and House as well. All of that stuff is really important. But right now, we just want to give it up to Kamala Harris, who really took it there. There was always all these memes and jokes about how she was in the gym for this. Okay, she prepared for these debates. She had her ducks sitting in a row with a fresh doobie to boot. Okay, so we lift her name and we are thankful for her and all of her accomplishments. Also in that same lane, Stacey Abrams and Keisha Lance Bottoms truly held Atlanta all the way down. Now, for those of you that don't know or have been living under a rock, or maybe you live in Alaska, Georgia has been a red state my whole life. I'm pretty sure my parents' whole lives and my grandparents' whole life. I have never seen anything below South Carolina ever be blue as far as a political state is concerned. Let me tell you something. They changed blue on today because of Stacey Abrams and Keisha Lance Bottoms. Stacey Abrams, who first-handedly experienced not being able to get a voter fraud and people stealing votes and that matter. And she was just like, it just won't happen to me on today and not on my watch. Keisha Lance Bottoms also helped in that, and they pushed it forward. So those ladies are absolutely Jet Beauties of the Week because they did their thing. Also, we want to shout out Ivana. Ivana has started her healing and herbalism brand, where she does elderberry syrup and all these other great and fantastic things. So we want to shout out Anavi Temple because it is just excellent. I got the elderberry syrup myself. I take 2 tablespoons of it a day. It's been working wonders. So very excited to have that. Also, I told you I was going to mention them. Brielle Stewart, who is my very soon to be sister-in-law, celebrated her 10th anniversary of NoMinusPlus and NoMinusUS, which is a blog of, wears many hats. She does styling for plus size beauties such as myself. And she also does some custom work. We also have been pushing her to start her PR and marketing and branding section of her business. So she's just out here doing the gosh darn thing. So we want to give up both of them. And those are our Jet Beauties of the Week. Congratulations. All right. So actually, it's a pretty short episode today. And we're going to move right through to our lesson of the week. Now, prior to the election, a few of the rappers thought it would be a great idea to just endorse the rotten tomato that has now been voted out. And so in doing that, they made proclaims, they put up pictures, they're in sweater vests, they made up platinum plans, they're making jokes about it, all for them to lose. Did all that hemming and hawing, all that look at me and my new white friend. They did all that trash, all for them to lose. And now for all of us to essentially be like, shun the non-believer. We're never going to trust you again. So with that being said, the lesson of the week is maybe next time, just shut up.
You are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
And that is another show of Nobody Asked Me But. Thank you so much for joining. I know it's been a while, but I appreciate your patience. I love you so much. We will be back on Tuesday, January 5th, with an all-new format, with all new things. We're so excited. Be blessed. Please continue to be safe. Wear your masks. It's still time to wear your masks. Please clean everything, wipe everything down. Stock up on handy wipes and the disinfectant, not on the toilet paper. All right. We love you and we'll see you soon. Bye.